a simple task here this morning on behalf of the Royal Commonwealth Ex-Service League of Trinidad and Tobago, the Southern Branch, to welcome you here at this public facility called the Sanderson Heritage Park. I take the opportunity to introduce some of the key people that we have in our audience. Major General Edmund Dillon, Minister of National Security. Dr. the Honorable Member of Parliament for Faizabad, Dr. Lakram Bodo. The Public Relations Officer of the Southern Branch, Veteran Private Ricardo Manzano. A survivor of World War II, active on the field then and still active today within the Southern Branch, no other than Mrs. Mary Anthony. Corporal Norbert Archibald, veteran of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. Mr. Theophilus Hunt, the welfare officer. Mr. Errol Toussaint. Captain Alexis, retired. Corporal Richardson, veteran, retired. And last but not least, the treasurer of the Southern Branch, Mrs. Leacock, and the president of the branch, Mrs. Leacock. They're both there.
This prayer is honor of those who fell. Would you kindly repeat after me? They shall not grow old, as we that are left to grow old. Shall not the weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sea, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them. We will remember them. Thank you.
I want to say a very special welcome to the Minister of National Security and my colleague in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, the Member of Parliament for Point Fortin, almost a neighboring constituency. Let's give a Faizabad welcome to the Minister of National Security, Major General Edmund Dillon. Welcome to Faizabad, sir. I want to thank the members of the Royal Commonwealth Ex-Services League, the Trinidad and Tobago Southern Branch, for this invitation to join you in the march today. I want to also recognize the other members of the head table, and of course to recognize a former member of Parliament for this constituency of Faizabad, Mr. Arthur Sanderson, who served us very well. Let's give him a round of applause. And of course, we are very privileged to have this function here in a facility that carries his name. And I also want to recognize, of course, Mary Anthony, who is still here with us, World War I and II veteran. But let's recognize her as well. But it would be remiss of me if I didn't pay tribute to those young heroes who faced the rain, delayed start from Lamtak Hill. But I want to congratulate all of those young and not so young heroes who braved the rain to walk this morning. Let's give yourselves a round of applause. And I was especially pleased to see the young ones, of course, who joined the parade and did not allow the rain to deter them. I think this kind of spirit, this kind of heroism would augur well. It augurs very well for the future of this country. And I think indeed those who we are honoring, the veterans of the World War I and II, would be, you know, the veterans who are here and of course those who have gone past, would be very pleased to know that this kind of spirit of bravery and camaraderie still persists in their honor. So I congratulate all of you who have joined us here today. This function, I understand, commemorates the 25th anniversary of the Southern Branch, and if that is correct, I want to congratulate the organization for maintaining that, tradition. And I also want to commend the Southern Branch because as being the Member of Parliament here for the last 2 years, I've been very fortunate to have been invited on 2 occasions for Memorial Day, and I see the kind of organization and the kind of structure and the kind of commitment that goes behind the Southern Branch. So let's give the Southern Branch a round of applause again. So I know today is about the Family and Sports Day. So, and I know you also have featured speaker here as well. So with those few words, I would want to again commend the organization and to wish everyone today a very successful Family and Sports Day that I know the event is to follow. Thank you very much.
I've been asked by our welfare officer to move a vote of thanks, so I don't know exactly what our chairman information he got. Anyway, what I have here is I'm addressing and saying good afternoon to the Honorable Minister of National Security, General Edmond Dillon, and also to our Faizabad representative, Mr. Bodo, and other distinguished guests, members of the Southern Branch of the Trinidad and Tobago Legion of ex-servicemen and women, although we are very, very, very few in number, and members of the planning committee, and I want to make mention of Mr. Bazi, I'm getting confused with the names, our welfare officer, who really spearheaded this committee that organized this function to honor the veterans of World War I and II. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Almighty God and to praise Him for this day and for the privilege to be alive and well and having all my mental faculties in order so that I can stand before you on this auspicious occasion. We give God thanks for those fallen comrades that sacrificed their lives in World War I and World War II. And it is because of their sacrifices that we have a very free colony, free nation, and free people. Our children, our grandchildren, and the world over can enjoy the same freedom. Being one of the surviving veterans, today I am very pleased to see that the history has been passed on to the young and upcoming generation. And to those who, in turn, can assure that the welfare and the well-being of those who serve are properly maintained. Today, as I speak, wars are being fought. We have noticed something that is brewing between the United States President and the President of North Korea. But we pray today for peace in the world, that there will be no loss of life and limb. War only brings about immense pain and suffering on people and nations. So let us be vigilant and pray for world peace. As the song goes, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let it begin with us, all of us here. I want to thank you on behalf of the Southern Branch for coming out and showing your support for our veterans. May God continue to bless you all. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. My parliamentary colleague and Member of Parliament for Faizabad, Dr. Lakram Budo, President of the Southern Branch of the Commonwealth Ex-Services League, Ms. Leacock, PRO of the Southern Branch, and my batch, yes, that's my batch, Ricardo Manzano. We trained together in 1974. We in fact celebrated our 43rd anniversary on Tuesday at my home, which we do every year. So it's as we said in the military, we pound the square together. Let me specially recognize, and I ask that you stand and give a standing ovation, Mrs. Mary Anthony. Thank you. Let me also recognize a former MP for the area, Mr. Sanderson. I also recognize a strong contributor to the Cadet Force, Captain Alexis. Another distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, a very pleasant good afternoon to you all. Let me start off by saying I'm indeed pleased and honored to be here this afternoon to what I consider to be a very important occasion, a very significant occasion. And the occasion is not just measured by the Sports and Family Day, but is measured by the bringing together in memory of, in honor of those who served us, and in memory of those who fell between the First and the Second World War. I think that's the significance of us being here this afternoon. Because many a times we focus on the future without understanding that the future could not have been without the understanding of the past. But let me also recognize the contribution made by the young people in the area a while ago. When I saw the Cadet Force and the Young Generations Band, and I saw people hardly just above my knee height playing the drums, it gave me some hope. It gave me some encouragement. Because, ladies and gentlemen, these young people have several choices, you know. They can do a number of different things. The fact that they chose to be members of those two bands, the Young Generation and the Cadet Force, I think speaks volume not only for them, but for their parents, their uncles, their aunties, who I'm sure would have encouraged them to so do. So please, let's give them that encouragement, ladies and gentlemen. Because you see, in today's world, we have to understand that they are the future. And they are the ones we have to give the kind of encouragement to take on the baton from us. The world we live in today is one that is characterized by a number of different issues, not dissimilar to what happened in the 1918 or the 1939 war, where we have not reached that magnitude. There are still wars and rumors of wars going on in our heads, and the Bible said so. There are still wars and rumors of wars, and I mentioned a while ago the question of North Korea and the US almost getting the brinksmanship. There's always issues throughout the world that remind us that we have to continue to fight for peace. We have to continue to fight for democracy in our world. So when we do so, we must also remember the contribution of those who went before us. For while today, we are celebrating Republic Day. Republic Day was preceded by independence. Independence was preceded by colonialism. And it was during those periods, there were a number of issues that saw people from our soil, Trinidad and Tobago, going to far off places for what they understood at the time was a fight for democracy. For what they understood at the time that they were fighting so that we can live a life of peace and stability. And they did so willingly. And so when we have people like Mrs. Mary Anthony here today who can vouch for that, we must also remember those who went before her. Because while we celebrate today, Republic Day, it is based on that sort of transformation. But not only that, when you look at our own military, for instance, and I served for 36 years in the Defense Force, the military today could never be where they are without recognizing the contributions of those who served and those who set the tone for us, who preceded us, who set the foundation for the Defense Force as it is today, who set the foundation for the Cadet Force as it is today. It was based on an understanding that they did what matters most at their time. And so those kind of activities must give us the kind of encouragement. And while we celebrate today in terms of the Sports and Family Day, let us again remind ourselves that we are here to also celebrate and remember those who served in the both world wars. Today, as we transform the world, as we look around us, we have to understand that we're in a world of interdependency. We are one in which we cannot leave matters to any one individual or one agency or one group of people. Each and every one of us as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago has a role to play in our society. We have a role to play in developing the patriotism of Trinidad and Tobago, because that is what those people who fought for us in 1989 and 1939 stood for. Patriotism. When I listened to the national anthem a while ago, I would sometimes remind MCs and so on, when they're introducing the national anthem, it mustn't be the playing of the national anthem. It must be the singing of the national anthem, ladies and gentlemen. But those people who died in those wars were based on patriotism. They gave their lives because they believed they were fighting for something good. And if we want to develop the same kind of patriotism, we have to start by singing our national anthem. How many times have we gone to a football game in the stadium? There are 30,000 crowd, about 25,000 Trinidad and Tobagonians, and about 5,000 Guatemalans or whatever. And you hear them singing their anthem louder than the 25,000 Trinidad and Tobagonians. If we don't sing our national anthem, you know what will happen to our young generation? They would forget it. Because we hum the words and we're going to lose sight of the words. That is where patriotism starts. By standing proud and singing our national anthem. Where every creed and race finds an equal place. May God bless our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to give my own, and of course the government and people own appreciation for those who served us well and continue to do so by generations to come. Let us continue to remember them. Let us continue to honor them. As we say, honor those who serve and remember those who fell. So, because they have stood for something that we are now enjoying. But we must have that enjoyment by understanding the sacrifice that they have made. May we continue to strengthen our nation. May we continue to bond together. May we continue to love one another. May we continue to see the big picture that is Trinidad and Tobago. So that all that we do and all that we see will be done to the benefit of each and every one of us. May God bless our nation. I thank you very much.
The devil's the accuser of the brethren. And he hates marriage because marriage is the image of God. He hates marriage because it's the most sacred institution on earth. God created marriage in Genesis chapter 1. It is the first institution he ever created, and it's the foundation for every other institution on earth. And he's a strategist. He understands if he can destroy marriage, he can destroy all of society.
I found out that if our phones are close enough, and if we have a connection on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, come on, I'm about to preach this technology until somebody comes out of hiding. If I got something on my device and you need it on your device, if I can get close enough to your device with my device, what's on my device can jump on your device. If I get close to the one who created me, close to the one who called me, if I stop running and return to the place of my assignment, got the drop.
Okay, welcome to the Sanderson Heritage Park here in Faisabad. And today is a very important day. And when I say important, it might not be important to some of us who are viewing this program, but it is vitally important to a lot of the people who we are going to be talking to today. Of late, we have heard so much about North Korea and USA and the rumors of war and war in all different countries. But today I have the privilege to talk to a survivor of World War II. And I have with me Miss Mary Anthony.
Yeah.
And it's a
Mrs.
pleasure.
Mrs. And
Mrs.
I'm a widow. And my deceased husband was also a soldier.
A soldier. So this is the wife of a soldier, Mistress Mary Anthony. And she's a survivor from World War I. First of all,
World War II.
World War II.
Yeah. And I served in World War II.
And you served in World War II.
Yeah.
Take me back to when you were first enlisted to go in this war.
Well, I served right here in Trinidad.
Yeah.
And I enlisted in 1944. And I served up to, well, when the army was demobilized in Trinidad, that is by November 1947. So everybody was demobilized by that time. And I was taken back on for the month of December as a civilian to close up my books because I did record keeping and so on. Well, during the war days, it is like the word war. You see, we couldn't get supplies. A lot of the boats were sunk, torpedoed out in the Gulf of Paria. We were given what you call ration cards, so that when some food comes, you're hoping to get something with that ration card. But sometimes the supply will finish, and you have your ration card and you didn't get any. As a matter of fact, when rice comes or flour comes, there are big crowds. So they had to employ the police on horseback to control the crowd. And the horses, you know, they will go back and sometimes they step. The very horses will step on people's foot and they get sores from the horseshoe. So war is a very terrible time. A terrible time to be living in wartime.
I remember, hearing stories from my parents that, when, like, sometimes when they're in cinema and you hear the siren and then the lights go off and the whole country's in total darkness. Tell us about, what it was like.
And you'll have wardens walking around with loudspeakers saying, if you have light in your house, turn that light out, turn that light off. You must not, it had to be darkness. We used to have what you call practicing war raid, as though there's a raid. So you mustn't have a light on because the people who come to the radio will see where a settlement is. So the wardens will move around and saying, turn that light off, turn that light. So you have to be in total darkness until that exercise is over, As women in the army, we went to the St. James Barracks every morning, well, 5 days a week, and we drilled.
Tell me about the drill.
Yeah.
What it was like.
Well, you had to drill, you had to learn to march, about turn, right turn, wheel. As a matter of fact, I was a corporal at a certain time, and I had to control the group, the name of the platoon. And you have people marching, and you say, about turn, and you know you have to put it on the right foot, so they will turn in the right way, and so on and so on. So we went to St. James Barracks in the morning from 7 o'clock, and we drilled until about 8, after 8, and then we were driven to our various offices, you know. Well, I work with the British Military Hospital, and that was run by the Royal Army Medical Corps. And we had the doctors from abroad, and we had local boys as what you call nursing orderlies. In a hospital, you will call them nurses, but in the army, they were referred to as nursing orderlies. So I worked, as I say, in the quartermaster's office, ordering stuff for the hospital, for food, and certain drugs. As a matter of fact, we got some drugs from the UK, but a lot of times the drugs never reach. So we had to buy drugs locally. So we had to, we never got money to pay these people. My work was to record all the bills on what we had called Army Form 22. And all those Army Form 22, you put them on what you call Army Form 56, and you pass those bills to command pay with those Army forms. And the people from the UK will pay those bills, because we never handle money. Remember, the money comes from UK, and the people from United Kingdom, they're the ones that handle the money. So that was the kind of situation in Trinidad, as I say. When a bakery gets flour and they bake bread, and they hear that bread is the hundreds of people had gone to that bakery to get bread. The majority didn't get, although you have your ration card.
So really and truly, that World War II, all it was not fought in Trinidad, affected
you
Trinidad.
felt the result of the war.
Yeah.
I think all over the world, people felt the results of the war, that World War II.
Yeah.
Because you had boats sinking, as I said, out in the Gulf of Paria, we had boats bringing in supplies that sunk, so they never reach us. You see?
When you sit down now and you reflect on it, what comes to mind?
Well, I thank God for life, and I thank God that we live in peace, and we have to continue to pray that we live in peace, because war is a very unpleasant situation, very unpleasant for everybody, for children, for adults, for the sick. Short supply of medical supplies and short supply.
So the chances are, if, God forbid, there's another war, we can face, this generation can relive that same situation that you all lived in those days.
Well, it might be worse for all you know, because you have improved machinery to kill people now. You know, it's a lot of new things in the world, so it might be worse than even in those days. You know?
Well, Mrs. Anthony, it was a pleasure speaking with you, right? And I hope that you live to see many more years.
Well,
without wars.
Without the wars, exactly.
Wars.
Yes,
and I hope that we, or those who you come into contact, will appreciate what you have done for us.
Well, we hope so, and we hope to keep the peace with prayers and love for one another. Important thing is love. Yeah.
Well, you heard it from Mistress Mary Anthony, a survivor from World War II. We are here at the Sanderson Heritage Park, where we are hearing a lot more stories about those who were involved in World War I and II. So we'll be right back after the short break.
The devil's the accuser of the brethren. And he hates marriage, because marriage is the image of God. He hates marriage because it's the most sacred institution on earth. God created marriage in Genesis chapter 1. It is the first institution he ever created, and it's the foundation for every other institution on earth. And he's a strategist. He understands if he can destroy marriage, he can destroy all of society.
I found out that if our phones are close enough, and if we have a connection on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, come on, I'm about to preach this technology until somebody comes out of hiding. If I got something on my device and you need it on your device, If I can get close enough to your device with my device, what's on my device can jump on your device. If I get close to the one who created me, close to the one who called me, if I stop running and return to the place of my assignment, I got the drop.
Okay, I have with me here Mr. Dennis Oliver. He's the chairman of the Royal Air Force Association, and he's also the chairman of the Federation of Veterans Association, and also you serve at the Royal Air Force in Yemen.
Yes.
It's a pleasure. Welcome to ACTN. Tell us a bit about your experience as a war veteran. What it was like in those days, and how you were enlisted, and your experiences.
Well, let me first say that in support of Miss Anthony's statement that war is not a nice thing. War, we seem to be wanting to glorify war today and make it a spectacle on TV.
Yeah.
But war is a devastating event. I joined the Royal Air Force in 1962 when Trinidad and Tobago was still a colony. We were not independent as yet, early 62. And at the age of 19, I was posted to the Yemen in Saudi Arabia, right now where the conflict is taking place. I spent 2 years there. I spent in all 10 and a half years in the Royal Air Force, which took me all over the world. And I've been back home in Trinidad since 1972.
But were you ever actually involved in any battle?
The Yemen, you see what's going on in the Yemen. It didn't just start.
Okay.
That has been going on before my time.
Okay.
So we were involved in conflict. It's a front line. It was the front line of the South Arabia campaign.
Yeah.
In 1965, I was there. So that, yes, we were involved in battles. And as the Air Force, I worked in telecommunications. We were literally sending the planes to bomb people.
Yeah.
And as a soldier, you're not only an airman, you're a soldier. You have to do footwork too.
Okay.
You carry arms like everybody else. You face the enemy. Right. So that was my experience in terms of military service.
I guess you have to thank God that you went through this war and you came out, and you still have health and strength. But when we look at what is happening in the world today, where do you think we are going wrong?
I want to take you back to the First World War and the Second World War. The First World War started based on nationalism. A nationalist in Sarajevo assassinated or murdered a Duke and his wife. That started the First World War. The Second World War started with a nationalist in Germany called Adolf Hitler. We now have a nationalist in America. And the daily rantings of the American president is taking us in a different direction. And I always try to direct people to the King's speech in 1937, September 1937, this month. The King, 1939, the King made a speech to the British Empire. And if you would let me read just a paragraph of it, it's right on the board behind me. For the second time in the lives of most of us, we are all at war. Once and over again, we have tried to find a peaceful way out of the differences between ourselves and those who are now our enemies. But it has been in vain. We have been forced into a conflict, for we are called with our allies to meet the challenge of a principle which, if it were to prevail, would be fatal to any civilized order in the world. It is the principle which permits a state in the selfish pursuit of power to disregard its treaties and its solemn pleasures, which sanctions the use of force or the threat of force against the sovereignty and independence of other states. Such a principle, stripped of all disguise, is surely the mere primitive doctrine that might is right. Our king said that in 1939. You see what's going on in the world today? It speaks for itself. Every morning I look at TV, Mr. Trump is saying something different, threatening somebody in the world. This world does not need war. We don't need a nuclear war attack either. We need peace. And we need to know how to resolve peace. And we will not be able to get that until we start disarming. America have nuclear weapons, they're threatening the whole world. Mr. Trump breaking all the treaties. He break the treaty in France, right? He break the treaty he breaking the treaty. He broke out another treaty recently.
With Iran? With Iran.
He want to break the treaty with the Mexicans and Canada. You understand? NAFTA. And this tells us something. This tells us something, and that is the most powerful country in the world with the most powerful weapons. So, war is not going to help us. You know, I am, as an ex-soldier, I pray every day that we don't have a war. Not with the kind of weapons that we have today.
When you went to war, how did your family accept that?
Well, they didn't know. My mother never accepted it at all. They didn't know. I was in England, remember? I left Trinidad and I went to England and I joined the Air Force. And they didn't know that I had been sent out to the war front. But when my mother found out that I was in Saudi Arabia, in the Yemen, she tried to purchase my freedom from the Air Force. She tried to buy my service out of the Air Force. Yeah. That is how far she went. She wanted to pay the Air Force for whatever they paid me. Yeah. And compensation, and get me out of it. So it wasn't really accepted by the family.
But Mr. Olivier, it was indeed a pleasure talking to you. It was really an honor to speak to someone who has served in World War I and II, and be here to give, in his own words, what that experience was. Thank you again.
I served in a conflict after World War I.
What was that?
That was the Yemen War, the South Yemen. The South Yemen War.
So thank you again, and all the best to you. And there you heard it from Mr. Dennis Oliver, again giving us a rundown and a bit of the speech in which the king spoke about war. So we're going to take a break and return shortly.